Hi, good night, everyone. My name is Mundo, and we're here in Community Advisors RSR. And we're going to be talking about Hispanic purchasing power. Eduardo Rodriguez from LULAC District Council 18 is joining us. He's a co host for the show. And we're going to be talking about Hispanic purchasing power. Eduardo?
Hey, all right, good evening. Hey, my name is Eduardo Rodriguez. I'm with District 18 LULAC here in Houston, Texas, and we're going to be talking about the Hispanic purchasing power. In other words, how much money um, the Hispanic community has, how much power that gives the Hispanic community, and how does a business that is looking to get clients in the Hispanic community, how do they use that information? Oh, by the way, we know we have a vote tomorrow. Your buying power is also important to them as well. Politicians and all the different government agencies, they want to know about how much you spend, where you spend it. For them, it's very important because they have programs, they have things that they look at after. So it's going to be a good night. Stay with us, man.
Definitely. So, tomorrow, 7 a.m., go vote. Start voting, 7 a.m. They open at 7 a.m. So please go vote tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You have enough time to go vote either before you go to work or during your lunch hour or after work. So make a plan and go vote. It's very important, especially if you're Hispanic and Latino. Make your voice heard. So today we're talking about Hispanic purchasing power. A lot of Hispanic Latinos they own a lot of businesses, but also a lot of non-Hispanic and Latino businesses, American businesses. They sell products that we buy, the Hispanic Latino buys. So that's very important because whenever they make decisions, those companies and they target a certain particular group of people, it's like okay, you go after the Hispanic population, Latino population, but what do you offer to the Hispanic and Latino population whenever afterwards, after you make that bunch a lot of money, like resources? We know sometimes they donate to organizations. Eduardo, any comments on that?
Well, the money that the Hispanic community uses to get things done in our communities, in and around our communities, um, helps not just the mom and pops, it helps out a lot of the big businesses as well. We're one of the biggest people that work in jobs that we consider uh, common everyday general labor, but that requires a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize, and that money goes back into the community that we make. We buy food, we buy lunch, we buy gasoline, we buy um, different equipment and lumber and whatever else, because we have a very large presence in the lawn services, construction, um, doing cleaning, house cleaning, and business cleaning, going around and just in general picking up trash or doing whatever we do. And those people that are involved in that, they go out literally into every part of the community. And when they're there, they spend money. They spend money there locally. They either get the gas, they go to lunch and buy, 20, 30, $40 a day. And then, when they're on their way home, they're doing the same thing. They're getting everything ready for tomorrow and so on and so on. And that one person, that one guy in a little truck with a trailer behind him when he's doing yard cleaning, that one guy, he literally could be traveling all around the county. So he's spreading that money all over the place. You get 1,000 of those guys at $30 a day. Think about how much money that is. At 100, that's $3,000 a day. At 1,000, that's over $30,000 a day, and just on lunch, just lunch. Now, what does that mean to me? Well, what does it mean? Every 10 days, that's $300,000. In 30 days, that's $90,000. Or a better way to put it would be $9.18 million a year in just 1,000 of those trucks. So, yeah, you have a lot of buying power, and that power can translate into votes um, because the local communities, if I don't have the knowledge of knowing where you're going to be at when I get ready to start my business, I put my business in the wrong spot, I don't make any money. Not a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. It's important information, and so uh, we're doing this show, so it'll be interesting. I'm voting tomorrow on November 3rd. It's very, I like to vote on the day of the election because I like the emotion being, at the voting location and, the day of the election and voting. So if you have any suggestions as to who I should vote for, drop it in the comments. That'll be interesting. If you suggest who do you want me to vote for? Obviously, I already have my candidates. I already researched my candidates, but you want to motivate me, you want to share your thoughts and opinions as to who should I vote for, put it in the
Well,
comments.
that's a very good point you're making there. We talked about that the other day when we were talking about politics, national and international. We had mentioned the fact that just because you don't have the right to vote, you're not eligible to vote, you're not old enough to vote, whatever it is, you can still influence somebody who does have those rights, who is eligible, who is registered, who is old enough to vote. So here you got a great example of what we're talking about. You got a young man, my partner here, Raimundo, who is telling you, I'm not gonna decide who I'm voting for. You decide who you want me to vote for. That's what we're talking about. You influence me. You tell me. I'll vote for you. Here you go, guys. You got an opportunity.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to convince me. Yeah, you can state your facts and your opinions and drop it in the comments and tell me and suggest to me who should I vote for.
And
That'll
you know
be
what? Let's do this too. If we don't get enough people tonight to tell us basically who you're going to vote for, all right? Then let's do this. Don't stop. I mean, because there's some people that they don't get an opportunity to see the live show, and they go back later and they review the whole thing, and they get an opportunity to see the show, at two o'clock in the morning when they get off work, and they're going, oh man, I couldn't do anything, man. I couldn't tell him. Well, we're going to do it this. Watch. He's going to vote no matter what you do, whether you tell him to vote or not. He's going to vote. Okay. But just on the sake of saying that what could have happened, all right, go ahead and make the comment. Go ahead and tell him who you think you should vote. Now, even if it's at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, heck, even if it's Wednesday morning, go ahead and say it. And on our next show on Saturday or Sunday or next Monday, we'll tell you how many votes we were told to vote for so and so and so and so, and then we'll tell you who he voted for to see if that matches. See if he's reflective of you, of the community. It would be interesting to find out if he is or if he isn't. But you know what? These are one of the things that we need to get accomplished. But that's why we vote. We want somebody in office. All of us together, we can make those changes. And it's crazy. It really is. But it really is a lot of fun. I know it sounds crazier than anything I think we're ever going to say, but politics is super confusing. Politics is super hard to discuss, debate. There are families, literally families, who half of them are going to vote one way, half are going to vote the other way. And during the election season, they don't talk. They put a little line down the middle of the house and they don't even cross that line. It gets bad. But it's also the most fun because here you got a chance to see what our founding fathers of this country, the United States of America, what they had to go through the first time that they got together, because they had problems too. They wanted this and they wanted that and blah this and blah that. The original Constitution only had 2 bills of rights, and there wasn't hardly anything in it because they couldn't agree. So here we are, still doing the same thing. Less than three, let what 244 years later, we're still doing the same thing. So it's interesting. It really is an interesting deal. I know one thing for sure that I think that if you don't mind me staying on here real quick on this one, there is there is something that I'd like to tell the people. What we're talking about today with the purchasing power that the Hispanic community has, it translates politics, it translates education, it translates religion, it translates to all these things because the churches that we have in our communities, they count on us making money and going to each one of the churches and making our donations for the week. They count on that money. The organizations that go out and help the children that are abandoned, wives that are in domestic violence situations, kids who are having a hard time and thinking about dropping out. All these organizations, they need money, and that money comes from you, comes from me. So when we go out there and we donate to these individuals, it's a buying power. We're buying, hopefully. Think about that. If you donate your money to an organization who is trying to prevent teenage suicide, and you give them that money, and guess what? They are able to save one teenager. Boss, you that's your buying power. Your money had enough power to save somebody's life. So don't ever think that, oh man, I'm gonna go, buy this one Coke and they're gonna charge me 18 cents for the Coke on tax and all stuff. Yeah, but it goes somewhere. It actually goes and helps somebody. It may not look that way, it may not feel that way, um, but it does. And that's something that we always forget. We don't see the end result of what we do. I had a case one time that it's not even a case, something that happened to me. Um, I was in between jobs. In other words, I was broke, didn't have work, and I was looking for some work, and I didn't have any. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was sitting at home, and I was sitting on the porch. And I asked my wife, I said, "Can you make me a sandwich?" And she goes, "Yeah." We were living with her mom at that time. And I was already old, man. I was almost as old as I am now. But this guy walks up out of nowhere, and I'm eating a sandwich on the porch. And he walks up out of nowhere. He says, "You know what?" He says, "My name is," I think he said Miguel, which I'm sorry, Angel. And he says, I'm looking for this and I'm trying to do that, and I have to go down here to get my stuff out of the pawn shop or whatever, and I need some money. I said, "I don't have any money for it, man." He said, "Well, if you could give me some money, I'd appreciate it." I said, "You know what?" We said, "Okay, you know what? I've got $5 left." I literally had just $5. That's all I had, nothing more. And I told the wife, I said, "Hey, this guy, he's needing some money. I'm gonna give him the $5." So I walked back out there and I give him the $5. And he said, "Oh man, thank you so much. I really do appreciate this, man." And he says, "You know what? I guarantee you that this $5 you're gonna get back tenfold, man. I promise you." By the end of the day, I had $50 in my pocket. It worked. He told me I was going to get some money in my pocket for giving him the $5. He said I would get tenfold, which is 10 times 5 is 50. I ended up that day with $50 in my pocket. So when you donate money, the buying power that you have, that little money that I gave him an opportunity to go and do what he needed to do, whether it was buy a sandwich or buy whatever, but it bought me something that I could never work hard enough for. So buying power is not just going out and buying a car, a house, and all that. It's also buying, you know, freedom. That day I was broke. With $50 in my pocket, I would be free of not having to worry. And guess what? At the end of the day, I had $50 and it literally bought me freedom because I was not worried the rest of the day. So buying power, money, it's amazing.
Definitely. So, the questions in Facebook, who should I vote for? So, drop your comments and tell me who should I vote for. Make your case, write your opinion, make it as much as possible, like detail as possible. Let me know who should I vote for. Going back to the topic about Hispanic purchasing power, we hear a lot of things about that are happening about discrimination or racism or some type of discrimination whenever a Hispanic or Latino faces. He goes to a business and he's in the business and some person comes up and says, "You shouldn't speak Spanish." And it's an employee or it's an owner of a business or it's the manager of a business. How should, when it comes to, the Hispanic purchasing power, how should Hispanics use it whenever there's an organization, whenever there's a company or there's set of group of people that own or operate a business, some type of, that involves money? How can they use their Hispanic purchasing power to make their voice be heard. Usually people tend to boycott, not buying that product. But me, you and I, Eduardo, we have discussed about Hispanic purchasing power. We have done our research, but also we have talked about boycotting and stuff like how do you address that racism and how do you use the Hispanic purchasing power? Like we had mentioned, a couple minutes ago, we buy a lot. Our population is growing. It's gonna even grow more, and the money that we have, the GDP, in total, all the money that we have is higher than some countries. So just imagine that. So how do we address that situation when it comes to sometimes to use our Hispanic purchasing power in a wise way, so we can fight whenever we face discrimination and racism, and here in the states.
Well, that's a really good question. And I'm a I solve problems. One of the things I did for the government was I solved problems. They came to me and they would tell me, hey Ed, this and this, and my job was to make sure to get these things done, correct them, fix them, figure out a solution to these problems. My solutions were never the same, and my solutions were always different than my bosses and everybody else. And the reason was because I believe there's a positive way to do things, and there's a negative way to do things. So the common everyday deal is, oh my God, this. Let's say that Company A, the one of the staff at Company A disrespected one of our people, and we're gonna protest. We're gonna march up and down in front of his business with little signs and all this good stuff, and we're gonna make it really bad for him and try to keep people out. If he's not making money, he's gonna apologize. If he's not making money, he's gonna tolerate us. If he's not making money, he's going to fire the guy who said that to us or whatever. No, it doesn't happen that way. You see, guys, if somebody calls you a bad name and all you do is march and protest, it doesn't change him. He still don't like you. And tomorrow he's still going to call you the same name. He doesn't care. If he cared, he wouldn't have done it the first time. All right. So how do we change that? Well, let me tell you how it works. It works this way. Money. I think I said this before in this program before, but I'll say it again. I had a boss who told me that everything is a business. And because it's a business, you have to learn how to work within this business. So this is how I protest. I had an individual tell me one time, we were talking about the detention facilities for children that ICE was running. I told that person that these things are being run by a private company. And she said, yes, I know. It's a company by the name of Geo. I said, yes. And they said, well, how do we get rid of that? How do we stop them? How do we vote the right person in office? I said, you're going about it all wrong. She goes, why? I said, because you're trying to, in Vegas, they'd say you're trying to make your point the hard way. And I heard that on a TV movie or something like that. I don't know who said it, but it was really cool. So I remember that. But so I said to her, I can tell you how to solve that problem, but you're not going to do it. She goes, yeah, I'm not. No, you're not going to do it. You don't even want to hear it, but it's the truth. I told her, I said, all the money that you guys gather in donations to march, to protest, to write resolutions, submit policies, and all these things to people, all that money, take all that money and then go to a stockbroker and buy stock in Geo. And she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, no, I'm serious. Look, Geo is a public company. It means it trades publicly on the stock exchange. That means you can buy the stock. I said, so go and buy the stock. She goes, but that would make us owners. Then we would be part of the problem. I said, well, technically, yes. But if you own the company, you can do something that a lot of people don't realize. She goes, what? I said, well, once you own 51% of the company, just close it down. What? I said, just close it down. You want to know how to close it? That's how you close it. You buy it. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. When you get situations where you feel like somebody's doing you wrong and you want to protest a product, you want to protest a business, don't protest it by walking up and down the front. It's not going to change anything. You want to change it? Buy it. Put your money into it. Become the stockholder, the major stockholder. And then you can tell the owner, hey, you know what? I don't like that guy. Fire him. What? Yeah. In politics, that's what we do. That's what we talk about here a lot, especially this week and this month. If you don't like what's going on in your community, we're telling you, please run for office. You need to become part of the system in order to change the system. It doesn't get changed when you're standing outside the door. It's not going to happen. Trust me, it's not going to happen. You need to get inside where everybody is influential so they can hear you, so you can make the changes. If you don't like a law, then make a change. I told a guy who is a congressional representative for the northern part of Texas, and I told him, I said, look, you need to tell the guys up there in Washington they need to change their attitude. He said, why? I said, because we're about to become the majority race in the United States. And when we do that, we're going to take over and we're going to change the laws back to what we want. He looked at me again like that other lady, like I was crazy. And I said, no, no, no. I said, if you want to make a law against, you know, the color of a horse, if you want to make the law against carrying guns and ammo and whatever, then do it. Do it now. But understand, once we get in the office, we can change it back. And he looked at me like, I said, oh, wait a minute. It gets better. When we get in the office, don't be surprised if we decide to make Spanish the official language of the United States. He just looked at me like, what? Yeah, the guy's in charge, right? The guys with the golden rule, they call it. The guy with the gold makes the rules. Well, it's the same thing in local businesses. If somebody wants to protest a local business, find out how much that business costs and buy half of it. Once you buy half, you own some gold in that company. And the guy with the gold makes the rules. Then you don't have to worry about protesting and going up and down and having to burn buildings or having to go and try to get a congressman to change his mind. Just buy the building, just buy the office, just buy the business. It's a lot faster, a lot cheaper. Trust me.
Interesting point of view, interesting idea, how to approach a situation. And as a person who has been active in activism since I was in high school, I hadn't graduated, and I started in activism. First, I started, locally in community, going by, helping in my church, very active, and then going into community activism like organizations, and then directly into politics after I graduated from college, from the university. And it's true, sometimes protesting and be on the streets, marching, for us, for Hispanics and Latinos especially, uh, it's good. It's good, yeah, that they do that. It's good because I have been there. I have been marching, protesting, and you probably can find thousands of images of myself there. But at the end of the day, you want to resolve that problem and issue. And like Eduardo offered, he offered a way to resolve a problem. He offered a solution to a problem. You buy the company, you buy the stocks, and essentially you become the owner, and then you can shut it down. Better yet, you can switch it around maybe and do the total opposite of whatever it's currently doing, and make the original owner go crazy, go mad. So yeah,
Isn't it crazy? I mean, but that's what we're trying to do. It's the same thing that we're trying to do with this show. We've been criticized already. We haven't talked about it here, but we're going to go. I'll say it. I'll say it. Um, the cancel culture has already affected us. We've had, literally some of our stuff modified, some of our stuff, rearranged, re-edited. Uh, Basically, and why? Because we did something that we weren't supposed to do. We said, as Hispanics, we said, we don't care who you vote for whoever you want. That's the truth. That's what we said. And because we said that, well, basically because I said that, we got in trouble for it a little bit. Um, but that's the whole deal. That's what we're talking about. So we do that here all the time. We're not trying to protest. We're trying to to buy the airwaves, what little piece that we have, and hopefully build a following that gives us the power to purchase more. And that will give us an opportunity to change people's minds, hopefully, and change what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And here in community advisors RSR, like Eduardo mentioned, we're neutral. We stay neutral. Obviously, we all have our personal opinions and beliefs, and we affiliate ourselves, with certain ideology, obviously, because we're very active in the community. We know what the community needs and wants, and sometimes we don't know exactly correctly. But you know, what I'm trying to say is that we're neutral. We work for the people, and so we have to stay neutral. And since we're Hispanic and Latinos, we are a very diverse group of people when it comes to thinking. So we stay neutral. We try to inform the community as much as possible. Stay in the middle. And whenever we have guests, we tell them we give them like 5 minutes, and it's like a public service announcement from that part. And then at the end, we tell our public, our viewers, we here in community advisors RSR, we're neutral. And we do it in a sense just to inform the Hispanic and Latino population, so that way they can understand that we're in the middle. We don't have no personal interest in this, and we're just trying to inform them about issues and topics and resources available that they can use to better their life. Like, for example, whenever we did the one for the courts, it was useful information for people who didn't know about the courts. Interesting thing, whenever we talk about something simple, how do you dress whenever you go to the court? Please dress, kind of whenever you go to mass. You don't want to dress like whenever you're going to a club, because that image impacts the judge whenever he sees you, and it's not a positive image. So we're neutral. We apologize if we offended anyone, but our show is dedicated to trying to provide a voice to the Hispanic and Latinos who are voiceless.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're going to get offended by us, you very well might get offended. But look at this from another standpoint. Uh, we're not here to offend you in the sense of your ethnic background, your religious background, your education, nothing like that. As a matter of fact, we're trying to do just the opposite. We want you to learn how to take somebody else offending you, turn it into a positive, and turn it into something that you guys can work together. Because in the end, we still have to live together on this planet. We still have to live together in this world, and so we still have to live together, in our communities, and work one side by side and walk in the marches side by side. You'd be surprised. I've been on marches that have had 20 people. I've been in marches that have had two, three, 4,000 people, and maybe even more. But I can't see that far. I need to use glasses, even readers, right now. So, but everybody that's walking for that one day, for that 1 hour, we are all together speaking one voice, trying to get everybody, our leadership in the community, to hear us, to understand how we feel, what we want, and for them to hopefully, be able to come to an understanding with us, so that everybody can still be happy at the end of the day. Is everybody going to be 100% happy? Nope, ain't going to happen. But 50% sometimes is better than nothing. And that's what we try to do. So if you're offended by us not offending you, then understand that's what we're trying to do. We want you to learn how to be able to not be offended. Don't take everything as an offense. Uh, Take everything as a way to learn, as a way to teach, as a way to pass on some good information to others, because there's a lot of people out there just like you and just like me. Some of us know a little bit more than others. Some of us think we know a little bit more than others. Some of us don't know nothing. We're just dumb. And that's how it is. But we all have to live together. And it doesn't make good community sense if we allow the smallest and the most uneducated in our population, in our communities, to be taken advantage of, because sooner or later it's going to happen to us. And if you don't think it happens that way, let me explain something to you. When you see and hear about a young man being arrested for breaking and entering into a house or a car or what have you, and you hear that, you watch the news and you see him before the magistrate getting told what his initial bond is going to be and what his charges are. Um, think about that, because if he's somebody that somebody in our community knows, what happened? Why didn't you talk to him? Why didn't you see that? Why didn't you, think about, calling somebody in, an activist like me, a community member, or somebody that who would like to work with that kid and hopefully keep him from getting into a situation where he's going to be arrested. Because see, when you didn't do that, when you didn't invest the time, when you didn't use your buying power to change that man to something better, we ended up having to pay anyways. All of us did through our taxes. Those taxes go to the state, go to the county to pay for the law enforcement, for the detention, for the judges, and everything else that goes along with it. It comes out of our pockets. So our buying power can help, and our buying power can also be used um, to enforce laws that we may not like, but sometimes we have to have them. And that's something that we have to think about. The Hispanic community here, every time you buy a Coke, you put money into the taxes in this area. And that money goes to a variety of different things. One of them happens to be law enforcement, jails, courts, lawyers. It just happens that way. But we don't need to. If we can save and use that extra dollar and maybe get a kid off the street, get him into a program where we have a lot of people that would love to help him out, and he doesn't become a statistic, we all of us, we save money, because instead of being able to use that money for the courts and the cops and everybody else, the city and the county and the elected officials can use that money so that they can put it back into the parks, or as I like to say all the time, they can fix my potholes. They can finally get those suckers fixed. And that's one of the things that we've got to be able to do. It's important for us to see um, how intense life can be, but life when can be beautiful. It can be intensely beautiful. I'm always telling people, because I have an opportunity to speak to a lot of people, sometimes my own kids and sometimes my wife, if she lets me, and I say stuff like, you've got a problem. And when I say things like that, what's the first thing everybody thinks about? Oh man, I got a problem. They automatically think that that problem is negative. It's not always true. When we were newly married and we were getting ready to have our first kid, my son, who is now getting close to 40 years old, and he has his own business. When he was getting ready to come into the world, we had a problem. When we had to take him home and feed him, we had a problem. But it wasn't a bad problem. It was a good problem. It was a problem that we planned. It was still a problem, but it wasn't a bad problem. So that's what we try to do here, at this particular program, is we're trying to show you that, yeah, there are some things out there that are going to affect you. They're going to be negative. That are going to have people looking at you in a certain situation and say, "Wow, that's crazy," you know. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Kids running on the streets. If you see a kid out there running on the street, and this guy can outrun you, and you're driving your car at 15, 16, 17 miles an hour, and he's passing you, you should stop this kid and get him enrolled somewhere, like into some kind of track and field deal. That's phenomenal. That's crazy. But this guy could turn out to be the next, world record holder. You never know. It's important to know these things. Recently, we had a little thing that happened to us in the past 24 hours, where a friend of one of my daughters um, got into an accident. He and his son got into an accident. Um, the son was hurt very bad. He just came out of surgery not too long ago. He has a broken arm. He had a literally shattered skull, and they had to do brain surgery on the young kid. And we're talking a very young kid. We're talking six, I mean, 5 years, 4 years old. It's crazy, and I'm sure the father feels beside himself right now. He refused medical attention because he wanted to get his kid to the hospital. That was more important to him. But he was hurt bad too. So what happened? Was that a good thing or a bad thing? I think we all agree that's a bad thing. But here's the good that comes out of it. So far, the kid is doing good. We're going to keep him in our prayers, and hopefully, he'll come out of this. You know, his dad has changed. I'll guarantee you, 100%. Whatever the accident was, it'll never happen again. And I probably bet you that he will speak to any father and anybody that he can about what happened to him, so that doesn't happen to any other kid. So something good came out of it. It still sucks. It still hurts. It's still a problem, but it was a good problem.
All right. I apologize for not being here for a minute. I had to fix the air. It's a little bit too cold. You can notice that whenever I was talking. That being said, thank you, Edward, for sharing that information. And once again, we're doing a poll on Facebook and on our social media accounts as to who should I vote for. And, and whenever you vote for it, you either vote for the Democrat or the Republican, and then also you give a comment, as to why should I vote for the person. I'm a Hispanic young Latino who is very involved in its community and likes to fight for for the community. And when it comes to the community, I mean, all of the people who live here, we're a big family, and it's not only Hispanic and Latinos, because when you live in the barrio, in the hood, we are a big family. That being said, we're talking about Hispanic purchasing power. We sell a lot of products, and a lot of people buy our products, and that's also interesting. We sell stuff. So, for example, uh, Eduardo has always mentioned that avocado, el aguacate.
Yeah.
It's grown in Mexico. And restaurants use it a lot. So it's like, and everybody likes it. So some people are making a profit out of that, and so when it comes to Hispanic purchasing power, we purchase that. So, what's your comment on that, Edward?
Oh man, well I could talk all night on that one, but it's one of those deals where yeah, the purchasing power is important because it allows us to use and say what we want. Aguacates are great. I don't like them, but they're great. Okay, because of the fact that everybody who buys them, who uses them, who eats them, you know, um, they are actually voting. That's what they want by buying it. The more you buy it, the more people say, "Well, there's a demand." It's called demand and supply, and that's where the purchasing power comes along. And it's very important because I guarantee you, if somebody came tomorrow and said, "Hey," if they realize what actually goes on behind the scenes with avocados, they would probably say, "Hey, you know what? We need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
We need to boycott that." But let me explain something to you. I think because of how much buying power we do have, the Hispanic people won't do it. See, that's why I don't think that a lot of political leaders get the Hispanic community because they don't realize we're not like anybody else. We had a recent deal that happened not too long ago with Goya Foods. The president of Goya was seen at an event with President Trump, and he spoke, saying thank you very much, President Trump, for certain things. He was just being, a professional. That's what he was doing. But we had a lot of mainstream media people that came out, and a lot of actresses and actors, and came out and said, you know what? We're not going to buy Goya Foods. We need to protest. We need to do this. Guess what happened? Just the opposite. The Hispanic community, to show that they were not having a problem with what the guy did, that they realized he was just trying to be professional, they went out and they bought all Goya products. Literally, I went to a store that didn't have any. It was gone. It had a big old sign saying Goya, and all the products were gone. And I asked the guy, "What happened?" "We sold out, man." "What?" "Yeah." So sometimes it works in reverse. But you know what that happens? That is exactly what we were talking about a while ago. They invested. They bought into the company, and then by doing that, they were able to have a voice in how that company is going to act in the future. They literally told the company, "You're doing a good job," by buying all the product that they could on the market. Interesting how it works out.
It's interesting. point of view. Thank you for sharing that. You know, when I sometimes when we're discussing the topic, when we're just preparing, obviously we all prepare and we do our research and conduct our research, and we find sources and we try to provide the most accurate information. And we're trying to talk about purchasing power of the Hispanic community, Hispanic purchasing power, and whether it's the first time there was a question where people asked, "Is there really a Hispanic purchasing power?" And then it's like the answer is yes, it is, because we live and we're here, we're present, and we buy products, and those products either they're American made, they're sold here in the stores, or they're from another country, but they're sold here, and so we buy it, and somebody makes a profit out of it, and so we have that ability, that money, and whenever companies and people think about us, they probably don't think a lot about voting, but they think about us when it comes to buying stuff. So we have a big voice, and so it was interesting that Eduardo mentioned that about Goya. It's an interesting point of view because you had a group of people who were very active, and they were talking Hispanics. I'm trying to stay neutral, like we said, we're neutral here, and everybody knows my people who I have worked with. They know where I stand on issues. But you had a group of people who were active, talking and saying they were throwing those products away. And then, like Eduardo mentioned, there was something else that was happening. They sold out in certain areas, which is quite interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Something else too that I forgot to mention was the fact that when we use our purchasing power that we have, it's amazing how we forget that it's not just going out and buying products and buying gas and buying stuff like that, but we buy houses, we buy land, we do all this stuff. But when somebody sits there and says, "Does the Hispanics have buying power?" Let me tell you something. You want to find out how much buying power we have? Do you really, really want to know? I want to tell you the same thing I tell everybody else, right? Find out for yourself. I don't want to tell you, but I'm going to tell you this time. You want to find out how much buying power we have? Get a hold tomorrow morning, call the local Anheuser-Busch distributing place where they make the beer. Call them and ask them how much the Hispanics spend on beer, how much these guys cater to us every time we turn around. Call Modelo and ask them. Call Dos Equis, ask them. You want to see how much? Let me tell you how much power we've got, okay? Because I know that's one of the hardest things for people to understand because we don't really have a number. Well, yeah, we do have a number. From 1979, basically, until 2017. We're talking 2017. That's 3 years ago. 3 years ago, guys. All right. It went from our buying power went from $210 million a year in the United States. We're talking US to 2017, where our buying power was $1.7 trillion, folks. Trillion. There are literally, and we talked about this the other day, there are literally countries that don't even have that kind of a budget to run the entire country. $1.7 trillion. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you what that means. In the world scale, there is only $27 trillion worldwide. $27 trillion worldwide. We have possession of 1.7 trillion. 1/27, or better yet, let's round it up to 2. So let's sit there and say, that out of $27 million, bro, we have 2/27 of the entire money in the world we control. That's crazy. And that's just in the US. That isn't Central and South America. That isn't Spain. That's just in the US. So yeah, buying power, but we don't use it. We don't use it the way we could use it to make it, work for us in politics, in schools, in roads, in all the other things that we could have. But man, I tell you what, out of that 1.7 trillion, we probably spent about 1 trillion in beer. So Yeah, we got buying power. Ask Budweiser.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Eduardo what he said. We have that power and we don't use it. Eventually, we will be able to use it as we grow more and as we have more kids who go to school, higher learning institutions, and we're gonna learn how to use it, and probably we have scholars, people like Eduardo, who have this information, who are Hispanic and Latino. Not trying to sound any bad or discriminate against people, but we need Hispanic and Latinos to teach us, ways on how to do things in the Hispanic Latino community because they understand this. Have you ever seen some people walking, talking the show, they're sitting there and they're talking about us, but none of them are Hispanic and Latino. It's like, I'm Hispanic or Latino. You can call me and I will go to your show. You can call Eduardo, and Eduardo will be happy to go on your show. He will talk about the Hispanic and Latino community and the way they think. Obviously, we have, our community even thought we work and we do work like statewide, even outside of the state here in the United States, we like do work for because our community is big and they're everywhere here in the United States. What we're trying to say is that not everyone thinks alike, but with the people that we work, they have an opinion, and sometimes you have those people who are on shows and they talk about us, they talk about Hispanic and Latinos, like in politics happening today, and they're saying, "Whoa, they're not gonna vote for that person. Whoa, they're not gonna vote for that person. Oh, they're gonna vote for that person." But have they actually, went on the streets and they asked a person of Hispanic and Latino, who are they gonna vote for? Who is not an activist? Who is there like a regular person? Have they brought someone who might be an activist or who might not be an activist and to a show to a table who has education or not education, not at all, talk about Hispanic and Latinos and they're gonna share a light. Well, they don't do that because they don't like it because they want to have what is appealing to the public or meaning to the broader population to have that person sitting there. So guess what? We're Hispanic, we're Latinos, we are a growing population. We're here to stay. We're here to we are Americans. So and that being said, it's a reality. So our voice is gonna be heard more and more, and you're gonna learn more about things that happen in our community that you have probably not heard, because there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that people haven't heard in politics and outside of the Hispanic Latino community. Because you go in those meetings and they don't talk about it. They worry about other stuff. Here we have an example of Hispanic purchasing power that, okay, you don't listen to us whenever it comes to elections, but guess what? You have to listen to us because money. Because guess what? We may not want to buy your product, or we may decide to buy your company. So it all depends how we approach the situation. So eventually, you have to learn that we're here to stay and we're here to make this place a better place than it is today because we're a growing population. Eduardo?
Yep, and that's exactly what we're talking about. It's one of those deals where everybody's going to sit there and say, now, I just like I said, I just told you about how much money that we made in 2017, how much money we have control over. Of course, the numbers that I give you, that was 2013. How much is that going to be tomorrow? I have no clue. It keeps changing every day. The value of something goes up. Property taxes go up because the value of property goes up. So overall, the property, the money wise, also goes up. Now, the number I gave you on the $27 trillion, the $27 trillion has to do really roughly with about how much actual cash on hand we have worldwide. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have more money than that. We do. We don't count the diamonds. We don't count the gold. We don't count the platinum. We don't count all that stuff. That's also stuff you can use. If I had a gold coin, trust me, I can go buy something with that. But we don't. We're not counting that. We're counting just paper type money, money that you can take when your credit card goes and they take that dollar out of your bank. That's what we're talking about. So worldwide right now is roughly about $27 trillion. But if you really want to know the value of every single property, every single item out there, you're looking somewhere at around 925 trillion to 1.200 trillion. I'm sorry, 1,200 trillion. It is unbelievable how much money the entire value of everything is. Everything. But yeah, money wise, but that gives us a huge advantage. We just don't use it right. We need to start learning how to use it. And me and Ramona, we've been talking about that. We're thinking about maybe putting together a couple of videos and getting you guys to throw some of that power, purchasing power at us, and we'll help you learn how to spend it. So
Yeah,
very cool.
definitely, definitely. We always come up with ideas and plans to help the Hispanic and Latino community. Like I mentioned before, that's we did this. We came together, a group of people, and we made a show or type of we people we like. Once again, we came together, group of people, to make a show, to make a type of podcast, digital news media, to talk about issues that happen in the Hispanic and Latino community. That being said, whenever we talk about topics, bear in mind that when you live in areas like El Barrio, the hood, where Hispanic and Latinos live, those issues sometimes are issues. Whenever there's issues or problems, we all face them. It's not only Hispanic and Latinos. So we're gonna be talking about things how to resolve them, and whenever we come up with ideas and plans, we always have that in mind that it's not only about Hispanic and Latinos, it's about other populations as well who live in our communities in that set of like a predominant Hispanic community, and we try to help everyone. And those ideas, we're working on ideas how to get some folks to run for office, and also how to use the Hispanic purchasing power. So before we end the show, any final thoughts and comments, Eduardo?
Just learn more about what's going on. Your kids are depending on it. Your wife, your family, your husband. They're all dependent on it. We're dependent on it because we want you to know more. We want you to be more active in what we're doing and and if you can't be active, at least be supportive. At least think about what we're trying to do and offer us some comments. We don't have all the answers. None of us do. But you know what? If we all get together and sit down, maybe we can come up with some solutions that we might all feel comfortable with. Because we're not going to be great. I mean, if it was up to me, I would go ahead and just stay home and not do anything, and I make everybody pay for me. But hey, we live in a country where you have to work, so we can't do that.
All right. So just a friendly reminder that tomorrow is election day. It's November 3rd. It's an important election, historic election, and they open at 7 a.m. I believe so, and they close at 7 p.m. So, yeah, we're Hispanic and Latinos. We like to work. We spend our time working. So before you go to work, go vote like at 6:50 a.m. Be on the line, like be there and be the first one, and go in and vote and take get over. Once you vote, you're done, and then you go to your job. Now, if that's not possible, then go during your hour lunch. If not, then go after work, but make a plan and go. It's very important for you to go out and vote, make your voice or make your vote count, and that's very important. I'm gonna vote tomorrow. We even created a poll for people to say, what should I vote for? Obviously, I did my research. I like to do research, investigate the candidates, and down ballot races are also important because they're the ones who have a direct impact on you. All those judges, all those I don't know if there's county commission elections, but if whatever area you live in, um, and those state races, those local ones, they have direct impact on you. So bear in mind, have that in mind, and do your research. You still have tonight and then tomorrow before 7 to conduct your research and be like, and figure out your figure out which one is the one for you. I'm trying to say you have time to do some research, and you have enough time, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to go out and vote. So there's no excuse for you to say that you're not able to vote because you had that period of early voting. Now you want to vote on election day? Well, that's fine. Go vote. I like to vote on election day because I like the emotion of, hey, it's election day. But that's me, just me being me, and on because I like politics. So please go out and vote. And like I said once more, you can comment and tell me who should I vote for, and make it like a interesting, right? Why? And have a blissful night. Stay safe, and we may be having a watch party, so you might see that event being created under community advisors and other social media pages. And you're welcome to join us once we figure out a location. And we have a watch party. We're sitting down talking about politics and having coffee or beer, and we will. It's fun, It's fun. We're not gonna do anything bad. We're just gonna sit down and or stand up and drink and coffee or beer and talk about politics. At the end of the night, once they close the restaurant, everybody's gonna go home. All right, have a great night, y'all.